Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and this review I'm super excited about because I say this every time I do a Marvel review, but if you have watched any of my reviews, you'll know how much I love Marvel Cinematic Universe and how big I am on superhero films. And honestly, besides Justice League, this past year was one of the best years in the history of superhero films, at least to me, because Ragnarok, amazing. Spider-Man Homecoming was amazing. I loved Guardian of the Galaxy Volume 2. I know some people didn't like it as much as the first one. I loved it. And last year I felt like we got a big variety of very different kinds of superhero films. And then you have Wonder Woman, which was something very, very important, very special, and really well done on DC's end. And now we have, fresh off in February, we have superhero film, we have Black Panther, and this was written and directed by Ryan Coogler, who did Fruitvale Station and Creed, also written by Joe Robert Cole, who helped Coogler write this, Rachel Morrison, who's nominated for cinematography for Mudbound, did the cinematography for this film. This was composed by Ludwig Göransson. And then, time to quickly list off the cast, starring Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, Lupita Nyong'o, Danai Gurira, and then Letitia Wright, and Angela Bassett, and Forrest Whitaker, Winston Duke, Andy Serkis, Martin Friedman. Giant cast. You have your token white guys. I love that meme so much. Sorry. And this film is such a unique experience in terms of the superhero film. And I've heard a lot of people saying this is a very African film, and I'm like, okay. And then I watch and I'm like, I get it. This definitely feels like this isn't made by a big American studio. This really captures a different kind of culture, and you have a different kind of feel and style to this whole entire film. And boy, does this film pack a punch when it's trying to take a look at themes of isolationism. Do we have a responsibility as a country to help out the world if we're in a space in a place where we can, or is our responsibility to our people to make sure that they're safe and make sure that they're taken care of, and it's not our responsibility to get involved? And this deals with a lot of very strong African American and African themes of repression and rising up, and it's very interesting how the dynamic of what you have with T'Challa, our Black Panther, played by Chadwick Boseman, and his ideas of things versus what Michael B. Jordan, Eric Killmonger's character, brings to the table and what he thinks should be done with Wakanda. And this is honestly one of the, because I was thinking about this, and this is a really deep thematic film for a superhero film, which honestly Marvel's been getting there with some of their films. Like Thor Ragnarok doesn't take on a whole lot of political things, and Guardians of the Galaxy didn't either, nor did Spider-Man. But when you think about Civil War and dealing with who's responsible, when should we get involved? Are we responsible to take charge, or do we have to be supervised by somebody? Honestly, it's a lot of the Captain America films that really hit on political ideas or just humanity, human ideas like that. And this film takes that and really runs with it and really hits on a lot of things. And the main reason why I'm talking so much about that at first was because that's something that really stuck out to me in this film. And it is really important. This is this very significant film, and boy, is this making bank this weekend. This is going to be racking up a lot of money. And after talking about all those things, there's moments where people were clapping and cheering from some of the lines that Michael B. Jordan's character Eric Killmonger says in this film, dealing with like colonialization and stuff like that and rising up. And it's just like, some of them were hard to listen to, and it's like, yeah, Honestly, it's something that is still an issue, unfortunately. And this film, for being a big budgeted $200 million superhero film, had a lot of guts to try to take shots at stuff like that and does it intelligently and doesn't make it feel forced. And that has a lot to do with Ryan Coogler, who's extremely talented director and writer. And this film is very well directed. This film is gorgeous, and from like the colors in this film just pop, and the action sequences. This is some of the best action sequences I've seen in a Marvel film, especially when they're in South Korea. Honestly, the whole casino and car chase thing, which you see some of that in the trailers, is fantastic, and this feels like a James Bond film on some levels, especially during that sequence. And it's some of the best action the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been able to provide, and that's saying a lot because like these are action franchises, and Rachel Morrison does such a fantastic job of shooting this film. And there's some wonderful very meaningful camera shots, and unfortunately they give some of them away in the trailer. They do a complete 180 turn of the camera as Killmonger walks into the throne room, and they do a very similar frame shot of T'Challa when he's walking into the throne room, but it's upright to begin with and sticks on that very symmetric shot, and it says a lot about what they're able to do. And some of the, like, they go into the ancestral plane, which you see shots of that, of the tree with the panthers in it and just the purple sky. It's gorgeous. This film is really gorgeous. Ryan Coogler does a really good job of keeping up the pacing of this film. I never felt bored. The main things that I would say that are detractions for me in this film is this, from a story perspective, there's a lot of repetitiveness throughout. There's the same kind of sequence 3 times throughout the film, and just from a writing perspective, it gets a little lazy that you repeat that multiple times. When this film is over 2 hours, it's 2 hours and 15 minutes, and you're repeating the same idea, and they do that with a couple of different things. And then, honestly, for the most part, the character Everett Ross, Martin Freeman's character, which for the most part he does a better job with his American accent, but there's moments where it just sounds really fake and artificial. But he feels really shoehorned into this film, especially, and the third act loses me a bit. When this goes full-blown CGI, like, fight fest, and, like, Ross's character is brought in, and there's a whole flight sequence of, like, shooting things, and there's a lot of ragdolling in this film because you could tell some of the characters become fully CGI when they're in their, like, suits and stuff. And there's a couple sequences where you could tell they're on a CGI set. So the CGI wasn't the greatest in this film, which was a little disappointing, especially with how much money they spent on this film. But honestly, those are the main detractions for me. And also a purely selfish one was, I was very disappointed there wasn't more Andy Serkis as Ulysses Claw in this film. You do get more, because I heard somebody compare him to Baron von Strucker from Age of Ultron. I'm like, no! If they kill him off in the first, 15 minutes of this movie, I'm going to be so disappointed. You do get more of him than that, but he doesn't turn out to be a super important character. He's so much fun, though, and I love Andy Serkis. He's one of my favorite actors, so that's purely a very biased thing to be talking about. But then the music by Ludwig Göransson in this film is fantastic, and it melds so well between a very African sensibility, but then also it sounds like a superhero score, and each scene really fits what it's supposed to be. And I was expecting more of the music from the trailer in this film, which honestly there's not a whole lot of, but when they did use it, it really fit. And now I'm going to gush about all the characters, because there are plenty. Now, some of the, Forrest Whitaker and Angela Bassett don't get a whole lot to do, but they're there, they do a good job with what they're supposed to be doing. Chadwick Boseman is great, and he really brings some power and ferocity to this performance as T'Challa. The one thing I will say about him is he has the Thor syndrome right now, where he's not the most interesting person in his own movie. And luckily, Ragnarok resolved that, and Taika Waititi did that. I hope that he gets a little more, because the thing is, it's not like he was a boring character. He's an interesting character, and Chadwick Boseman does a great job. It's just, he gets a little overshadowed, because by far the person who steals this film is Michael B. Jordan for me. He's amazing as our villain, and he is definitely up there. For all the crap that Marvel gets for their villains, they've upped their game very recently, because I enjoyed Hela a lot. Could she have been a little more, had more characterization? Yeah, but you got her motivations. Ego the Living Planet and the Vulture were amazing villains in those films last year of Guardians and then Spider-Man Homecoming. And then you get Killmonger, who honestly is probably the best villain that the MCU's had. Sorry, Loki, but he's purely tragic, and honestly from a character perspective, and his attitude that he brings is amazing. He has some great one-liners, and one of the things I'm disappointed about is when they go full-blown Black Panther and you can tell they're just CGI suits, you lose the physicality that Boseman and B. Jordan bring to this role, because the look that Michael B. Jordan has on his face when he's fighting this film, you feel his intensity, and Chadwick Boseman has some great moments. Danai Gurira from Walking Dead, badass. She's amazing. I want to see more of her. And then I gushed enough about Andy Serkis, I won't do that anymore. Letitia Wright, who plays his younger sister, is amazing. Fantastic in this film. Someone who had no expectations for Mbaku, the character of Man-Ape from the comics, which they refuse to use the character's name because it is really offensive. But, like, where they use the Black Panther as their symbol, they have ape symbols for this tribe who lives up in the mountains, and Winston Duke plays Mbaku, who's their leader, and boy does he steal the scenes he's in, and he's fantastic. I'm just going to say Martin Freeman does okay. Doesn't do the greatest job. And then Lupita Nyong'o, I think, does a really good job too. I really, really enjoyed this film. This is setting the MCU off in such a great direction, and they could do so many amazing things moving forward with Earth, with what happens with this film. I'm going to give Black Panther an A-.